Got one of my favorite episodes today. Has nothing to do with the gain we had today, which, by the way, was roughly about 4 grand. So we'll take that. That was about a 5% gain today. But that's not why I'm calling. Not why I'm excited about this episode today. This episode, I guess I've been waiting for today for a long time. So we're going to talk a little bit about kind of some big picture stuff, and you're going to see your homeboy here put his money where his mouth is. So anyway, before I get anything to show you, I was actually driving around today, and I heard this little news story which kind of caught my eye or ear. And they said that I guess there's a lawsuit where the big four car companies, I guess it's Ford, Chevy, General Motors, and I don't know, maybe big three, I don't know. They were in a lawsuit with the federal government against the state of California, our state right here, and about the imposed fuel efficiency requirements they were going to have. Because basically, it's like if you have to make cars for California, there's 40 million people in California. It's like you can't really bifurcate the manufacturing process and make a certain amount of cars for California and a certain amount of cars for the rest of the country. So in essence, what you're doing is when they make those fuel standards, you're making them by proxy for the rest of the country. And so I was listening to it today, and they weren't really talking about that, but I just underlying, I knew that story. Well, they said the big three big four, whatever it is, car companies had actually withdrawn as being a party to the lawsuit. And they said they're looking forward to working with the Biden administration, blah, blah, blah. And I read between the lines. What it was, you know what, we have a lame duck president, assuming that Biden's going to win, still not settled yet. They just, they're just glad handing, honestly. They just figure that, you know what, they don't want to create enemies this early. We're just going to get out of it. We'll basically try to get in nice with a new administration. I guarantee you they're going to be sending more lobbyists to Washington than they could possibly have. It's probably be inundated with auto industry lobbyists. So they're going to be writing a lot of checks. And so I saw that and I thought, okay, well, that's a signal. They're not probably alone. There's probably a whole bunch of other companies that are adjusting their corporate strategy to having Biden as president. So, all right, well, the question is, am I making stuff up? Am I wrong? Am I right? Kind of where is that? And so I went to basically pull up this as I was getting ready to make this video. And guess what the headline is? Corporate America is ready for a Biden presidency. Now, it doesn't mean they're rooting for a Biden presidency, but, the risk management aspects about the risk management, if I can talk today, the risk management aspects of their corporate strategy are in place. And so they're ready to adapt. They're ready to figure out what's going to happen. And they're just presuming that he's going to be president. They're adjusting kind of their lobbying, how they spend money. Are they going to invest in capital? Are they going to open new stores or new factories, what have you? And it really depends on the industry, right? So if you're the coal industry or if you're anything where you're an energy producer, maybe not, right? So he's talked about wanting to shut down the Dakota pipeline, which basically brings in oil from the oil shale in Canada, which is basically like they're drilling oil under this massive layer of sand, and they're moving it from Canada through the United States to the Gulf Coast ports. So typically Houston, Biloxi, New Orleans, things like that, so they can actually ship it out of the country. So if that one is done, then it definitely impacts things. The question is, does it impact North Dakota? Because North Dakota, they're doing a ton of fracking. They are just finding oil left and right, and it's a big part of our country's current energy independence. But what we know it doesn't affect is West Texas, because you don't need that Dakota pipeline to go from West Texas. So with that being said, it's like, all right, this was the green light we're waiting for. Corporate America is ready for a Biden presidency. So basically, everything that we've seen, and the reason I'm even doing these videos to begin with is you always get rich taking advantage over uncertainty, right? So if you have an asymmetrical negative event such as the pandemic, where it's not a function of the economy per se, it's not a function of an industry or a sector or something that's fiscal. So you look at um, the Great Recession, and it was a matter of the credit dried up. They had lent money to people who they didn't realize were going to bankrupt them, and they stopped offering credit. So it's basically the business equivalent of you getting a home equity line of credit. You have 50 grand that you have available, and all of a sudden the housing crash hits, and they're like, we're not lending any money to housing, and they shut down your corporate line of credit. It's not that you weren't going to pay it back. I mean, you could have an 820 credit score, but it's just they're drying up credit because they don't want to take a risk of widening their loss, because they don't really know where the hole in the boat is. And so that's what happened in 2008. So it was like a function of the economy per se, and a lot of people gambling and did stupid stuff. If you ever seen the movie The Big Short, it's extremely well done, and they talk exactly about what went on, but they actually make it to a point where you can make sense about it, right? But coronavirus isn't like that. It's asymmetrical, and it's basically caused by fear. And so we all know Warren Buffett's statement: be greedy when people are fearful, and fearful when people are greedy. And so when people are greedy, or when people are fearful, we're going to be greedy. Okay? So now that we know that corporate America is ready for a Biden presidency, we know that they've basically adjusted it and they're moving forward. So they kind of have their path forward, and they're just moving forward on it. So you combine that with the fact that we have the Pfizer vaccine, which said it was like, I think they said it was like 90% effective, but you have to put it in this like unbelievably hyper freezer type things that nobody has. Maybe they're selling those freezers, who knows? And then, who was it? It was Moderna came out and they said, yeah, well, ours is 94.5% effective, and you can just stick it in a regular medical fridge, which is like two degrees. I mean, think of it as like a big version of your fridge at home. Well, then Pfizer came back and goes, oh, we forgot about that. This really did happen. Oh, did we say 90%? We meant 95%. So it's literally like they're bidding up the number, right? And you'll find out in the FDA kind of where that's at. But so anyway, we have two vaccines coming out. So we're thinking that's really awesome. But on the bench, we have a whole bunch of other companies that are working on viruses. And so one of them that came out, I believe it was today, it might have been yesterday, was AstraZeneca is working with, I want to say it's Oxford University. I know it's in Britain. And they came out and they have a vaccine that only requires a regular refrigerator. And it was like 95% effective, or 90%. It was something up there, but it was incredible. So now we're up to 3 vaccines, and we haven't even hit. I mean, we have Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca, and there are a whole bunch of other companies. I know Johnson & Johnson's up there, and there's a whole bunch of other companies and countries working on a vaccine. So with that being said, anybody that's sitting here worried about where things going is, I'm sorry, and I'm just going to cut to the chase, a moron. Is a straight up moron. I mean, you literally can see the end of this pandemic in sight, right? The question is there going to be one company that gets approved? Do all the companies get approved? Does like AstraZeneca, are they going to be for the Europeans? And who knows how it's going to happen? But it's like we basically had a situation where in the history of mankind, nobody ever was able to develop a vaccine for a coronavirus class of virus. And now we have 3 already. So the market's been moving positive. It's been moving up lately. And anybody that's sitting here thinking that it's, we'll see what happens, it's a moron, because you can see the end of the pandemic. You have corporate America saying, listen, we've kind of have our plan, and we kind of know where things are going. We know who Biden is. He's been around for 48 years. And he's hiring all the people that were around when Obama was around. So we know the playbook. So with that being said, what are we going to do? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. And this is why it's my favorite episode, we're going to be sitting here buying a whole bunch of stock today, a whole bunch of different stocks that I've had on my watch list. We're going to go and start investing in them. So before we pick the best of the best, now it's just about getting into these stocks, establishing a cost basis, and making money. And I don't necessarily care if we're making 7 to 1 ratios on the upside for this, but we want to get in on stocks that we know are going to do well. We know the market's moving up. And when I looked at the fact that it's already moving up, it's scheduled, kind of in a sense, to go up about 170 points for tomorrow, we know it's moving in the right direction. So we're going to talk about some of the biggest movers today, and some of them are ones we're going to buy, and some of them are the ones we are not. So we'll start with Two Harbors. Two Harbors is a REIT, and we already had a limit order in to buy them, so we're going to keep that one there. But one of the things that I did was I established, let's see, we'll go to this, and for each one of these, I basically just created a score. I looked at a few different things, and we wanted to establish a score from 1 to 10 to give me a sense on what order I want to buy things. So I looked at kind of the 5-year versus 1 year. So typically we've looked at the 1 year. So it's kind of at about 15, 16 bucks. It's sitting here at $6. But I also want to look at 5-year and see what the trend is. Is it going down? Is it going up? But for the most part, the trend has been up here for the last, 3 years roughly. So we pick an average score. Let's call it 14.3, and it's sitting at 6. We have this massive drop off for the 1 year, and it didn't really go massively up for June, but it's been relatively flat. But if you look at them before then, it's been, kind of very consistent, a little bit on the uptick, and when we went to the 1 year, it's relatively flat. So we decided, okay, we're going to keep our limit order buy for that. So that's the one that we have right here. One of the things we also, so with that being said, one of the ones I also looked at was Children's Place. Now this one's done really well over the last 3 months. So if we look at them, they were down to, let's say, 19 bucks. They're sitting here at 43. I've had my eye on them. I guess I probably should have bought it back then, but I didn't. But I looked at them for 5 years, and they've gone up and they've gone down. And this is basically your February 20th, where everything changed, had a massive spike up, went down, went up. But basically we're at a point with Children's Place where is Children's Place? It is, I guess I can go to here because I know where it is. It's right at the bottom. So it's sitting here at a 1.63 upside. Because it gained a lot of the stuff back. Now, the question is, what's it going to do later? So it could go up and go all the way up where it was before, up to 128. It's sitting here at 43. It's about a 3-to-1 ratio if we really want to take the optimistic view on things. But let's just say it's sitting here in this little trough, right? It's at 93. We're sitting at 43. It's basically a 2-to-1, and it's a mall. They're mall stores. So the question is, how will that play? And I tend to think after the pandemic, one of the things you're going to see is that if there's one lasting impact of the pandemic, you're going to see a bigger percentage of people out there doing online shopping. And then of the people that are doing online shopping, I think there's going to be people who are doing more of it because they've been trained to do that. They could go to malls, but I don't think necessarily that's the play. So we could get this one, but I think it's there's a little bit too much profit in there that's already been taken. So we're going to hold off on that one. XAN, this was our commercial REIT where we kind of, I don't want to say trying to dump it, but we're trying to get out of it for the time being. So I wanted to look at them as well, just as another look. We looked at them for 5 years. I mean, they were very consistent. I mean, going up and up and up, but very consistent for the most part, very loyal trend line, and then massive drop off. So they were up at a point where they were about 12 bucks. We see them about 3, so just call it 2.5 to 3, 3-to-1. And even here, they spiked up to about, in the June, right before all the riots started, and really had an impact. It was at 4.2. It's sitting at 3.75. It's relatively flat until the last month, where, let's call it 3 months, where we see it starting to climb. And so if the vaccines are out there, I don't think you're going to have this total catastrophe in commercial real estate. I think there's always people that are looking to start restaurants. There's people looking to start companies. And if anything, maybe it lowers the rent because these people want to fill their spaces. So this is one, believe it or not, we want to look at. So even though I got out of it a little bit early, we want to look at. So earlier it was at 1.9. In the last basically month, it's gone up 87%, which sounds like, why would we want to buy it if it's already gone up 87%? But if we look at it since February 21, it was at 12.5 roughly. We're sitting at about 3.7. So call it about 2.5 to 2.5 to 3 upside. We'll take a look at that, and it's actually, I take it back to about a 3.3 upside. So I decided I didn't necessarily want to get into it a ton, so we only rated it a 6.5. So we're going to put a limit order in on this for about $1,000. So it's sitting at 3.7. I thought, let's take a look at today. It's at 3.8 right there. If we were to get it down to right here, 3.34, and we'll just take it for the week. I looked at about right here, about 3.3, then we'd be looking to get it. Because I'm not eager. We don't have to get this, but it has a lot of upside. But I'm just going to be really picky. I don't feel like, this is a sector that I really want to jump into huge. But if we get what we're looking for, we'll do it. So we're putting $1,000 on this one, presuming it comes in, and it'll give us almost a 4% upside, which isn't really my big area right now. We just want to take advantage of stocks where we have a good sensor going up, and there's somebody that we believed in, but we just haven't invested yet. All right, Helix Energy, same thing. This is an oil stock. They are, where are they at? So they do well intervention, robotics, and production facilities. So they're not drilling, but they prepare the supplies. They do the North Sea, that's up in Ireland and Scotland, and the Gulf of Mexico. So they're not going to be impacted by that pipeline. So if anything, we look at them for the last 5 years, and it's been kind of crazy up and down. It looks like an EKG, but let's just say that they get up back up to 9.6. They're sitting at 3.8, call it 2.5 roughly, which should be around there. Let's take a look. Helix is right here, 2.3, but it has one of the things I looked at for them, it has a 78% buy rating. And now, for the first time, since we're getting into stocks that have a little bit lower of an upside that we might buy into, I want to look at how they beat earnings. And so this year, first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter, they beat earnings all 3 times. And realistically, that third one, the third quarter, is where their biggest earnings beat was. And even over the last year and a half, that's there. So I saw that plus 78%, and I thought, we're going to go buy this. So with that being said, we put in a limit order for WPX at 740. It's sitting at 750. Realistically, I might change this later. I want to buy this tomorrow. I mean, honestly, it's only a 1.6, but that's off the February price. I think you might see this go even higher than that. So with that being said, we'll put $900 in. Not a whole lot, but we just want to get in the game on this one. All right, Venom is another one we have here. So this one is, for those who don't know, they own gas properties in North America. It's headquartered in Midland, Texas. So again, this is not going to be impacted by the pipeline. It's 5 years. Had its real big spike in 2018. I think that's when Trump became president, and they thought, okay, this is really cool. Honestly, relieved a lot of regulations on this. Got up to 38. We're sitting at 10 right now, but realistically, it's gone down since then. I think it's partly the price of oil. So if we look at them at about February or so, we're looking at about $22. It's sitting at 10. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio, and let us see. Why are there 2 buys here? Take a look here. We'll come back to that. 83% buy rating, which I thought was really good. We want to look at the revenues. For the most part, the only time they didn't beat revenues was second quarter 19, fourth quarter 19. But first quarter this year, which was pre-pandemic, they did well. But the last 2, they still beat revenues. So I thought, I want to get in on this one. And so it's sitting here at 10.95 right now. And I said, okay, we are going to, see, where are we at? We are going to buy 10.85 on this one. It's basically a 2.1. We rated it an 8 on the score of 8 to 10. And for whatever reason, I have 2 of the buys here. So let's see. Let's cancel this one. I don't know why I was thinking. Maybe I did it for something else. So let's see what else I had at 740. Oh, that was WPX. So let me go. We're going to take a look at WPX right here. Sometimes you got to keep your stocks straight. All right, so Alrighty. All right, so we have that one in at 10.85. It's sitting at 10.95. So basically, if it just goes down a tad, that offer will go in for 100 shares. And this will be for Venom. Basically, we're getting into 1,000. I just like this one. But one of the reasons I didn't invest more, even though it's a little bit higher, is just it's oil, and I have a lot of oil stocks. So we just want to get, our fingers wet a little bit in on this one. All right, so then we go to WPX, which we're going to execute an order on that. And we'll get the limit order set for when we do it. All right, so this one, it's kind of been up and down, very similar to this. It was at 12 bucks a share. It's sitting at 7.50, so a lot of the gain has been brought back on this. But it has a 76% buy rating, and if we look at them, I mean, these people have crushed it. Second quarter, which is nuts, like the big part of the pandemic when everybody was sucking. I mean, these people have crushed their earnings, and I thought if you could do that in these two periods, we're going to do pretty good. So I got to plug my computer in. Give me 1 second. All right. So I thought, okay, we definitely want to get on this one. Take a look at it for the day. It's sitting at 7.50. It's actually 7.50 after hours. If we can get it to right around 7.40, we'll just call it that. I mean, I just want to get this stock in. Then we're going to do that. So we'll do 125. All right, so we're in on that one. So we'll clear that one out. All right, Halliburton was another one today. So we'll look at that today. This, I figured, this one's like the insiders in Washington. They were the Bush, this was the oil company, the infrastructure company when Bush was in office. So for all the insiders, it was going up and up. I thought, I don't like this slide. All the way from 2018 till now, the stock price has been going down from, just call it 50 bucks a share, down to right before the pandemic hit was 24. So I thought, yeah, even though today it had a pretty good day, it went up 8%, it's not really looking for what we want to do right now. So we'll move on to that. Sasol, which is another company, they do mining, exploration, and production. So they're the ones digging in the ground. And they work in Mozambique, South Africa, Canada, and Gabon. So they're not going to be affected by that pipeline. So we looked at them for the 5 years. Been doing really, really good till 2018. And then we start to see it drop down. And then it goes from a point where it was at about 37 a share to about 21 a share. And then we have the pandemic. So even though it's a nice one where we see a lot of upside, the thing that concerned me a little bit was just this drop off. We have a very consistent pattern up to here, and then we have a totally different pattern from here. All right, so 40% buy rating, and we don't really have a whole lot of data as far as earnings. So given that level of opaqueness, I'm just not comfortable, and we're going to wait on that. All right, Carnival Cruise Lines. We haven't been in the cruise lines for a while, so we're going to take a look at this. So the last 5 years, honestly, very solid trend line. It's gone up a little bit. Even though it went down a little bit here, it's not much of a deviation. And we basically went from 50 bucks a share down to 8 bucks a share, and it's sitting at 18 right now. So if we think 18.50, I don't know, you're close to 3 to 1 upside. So we'll take a look at our upside here. And we're basically at, I take it back, 2.28. But I love the industry. So, basically we see it drop down. We have a little bit of a spike here, and just the uncertainty has been really questionable. But over the last month, as the virus, the vaccines start to come out, you start to see it react a little bit more positively. And we have a whole bunch of people who are baby boomers who are just, that's the retirement. That's what they want to do. And so when the vaccine comes out, they're going to be first in line for the vaccine. And if you don't think they're not going on a cruise, you're nuts. So I went in here to 60% buy, most of it to hold. And I think it's vaccine related, but they've pretty much hit all their earnings potential except for Q2, which was obviously the catastrophe. But in Q3, they basically met their earnings. So I thought we're getting in on this. So we're going to take a look at Carnival. And so we put in a buy, not a whole lot, just $1,300. It's sitting at 1860. I don't know why I have it at 1870. It's at 18. I guess the price has gone up, 1872. So we'll just update this. All right, 1872. We just want to get on this at the current price. So we're basically getting $1,300 in there. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. So we'll move forward. All right, Cinemark. Movie theaters. Vaccines equal people going to the movies. And there's a whole bunch of big picture, big budget movies coming out. So over the last 5 years, very consistent. And then the pandemic hit. I mean, it went down a little bit here the last year, but I think that was probably just something like this. And then it just dropped off. So we look at them, 50% buy, 50% hold. Nobody's saying to sell. And yet in the pandemic, they beat expectations in Q2 and they held expectations in Q3. And I thought that's really good. But we're going to talk about another movie one that we want to go to because we're really big on industry leaders. So we'll look at AMC. So AMC, the last 5 years, yeah, it's gone down a little bit, but it's been relatively flat since, probably 2017, the last 3 years. This is probably just the beginning of streaming. But we look at them for the last year. This is where we were at the pandemic hit. Let's call it $8. And this one has dramatic shifts to the upside. It dropped down. So you see a pattern where it goes down, up, down, and we want to see the up. So take a look at them. Nobody's really bullish on them, but they've been pretty close to hitting earning expectations during the heart of the pandemic. So I thought, okay, we want to get a buy-in on this one. So believe it or not, we already have a buy in this one right here. So we're going to adjust this current price, and I got to adjust this right here. We'll just call it 3.9, and we'll cancel this one out. And we'll see if it lets me, because I'm going to be pretty close on this one. So let's say 3.9. And then how many shares did we have on this one? 500. So, all right, not enough buying power. So let's take a look. Let's do 460. We'll just call it 450, round it out. All right, so we'll just adjust this one out. We'll adjust it on the projections. Okay. So we definitely want to get back in the movie theaters. Vaccines equal, and big budget movies sitting in the can right now equal a ton of profits. So we're not going to do Cinemark right now. It's good stock, but we're going to pick AMC instead. All right, Fang, Diamondback Energy, and this one we already have a buy at $25. This one went up. Let's take a look at them today. They went up 11% today, which is really good. But the difference in what we own in 25 and 45 is basically not enough. We're not in the business of increasing our cost basis that much. So great day, Diamondback Energy. We appreciate the bump up. We're almost doubling our, we haven't had this that long, investment, but we're moving on. PBF was another one. We have a good day with that one today, 14%. But we bought it at 7. It's sitting at 8.34, so that's within range. So we'll take a look at it. Basically another oil stock, spiked up in 2018 about $50 a share. Right before the pandemic hit, goes down to 27 and plummets down. And over the last year during the pandemic, went from 27, sat as low as about $5, got up in June to about 15, and it's sitting here at 8. But we want to take a look at it, and I thought, okay, well, it's mainly a sell, partially a buy. This one had a real downer down here for a while, but the question is, are we getting to buy it low? So the interesting thing is they are like on the money with their earning expectations. I looked at this and they're like super exact. They missed this one by a little bit. We'll cut them some slack, but we have a lot of oil stock. So I'm still going to keep this on my watch list. but we're not going to buy this. So we are going to do, we'll add PBF on our watch list. All right, Braemar Resorts. This guy was the house leader in the house for the longest time. So we'll take a look at them. Well, I guess we'll go back 5 years. Relatively consistent. We have a nice little jump here, but let's just assume it's relatively consistent. Call the average about $10. Right before the pandemic was 8. Just call it 9. Average 9 out. It's sitting here at 4. We'll look at the last year, and about $8. Massive spike in June. Okay. And then the riots hit, and basically it went back down. And we start to see, as soon as the vaccine gets announced, let's take a look at them here. We see a massive spike, and I'm like, we want to get a hold of this. So we had it at 209. It's sitting here at 432. I hate increasing cost basis, but this one's proved to me that it's an awesome, awesome stock. So what I decided, we're going to go ahead and just make an exception to our cost basis rule, and we're going to put in another $1,000. It's sitting here at 432. If it gets down to 420, which is just kind of a blip in the day, we'll buy this at 420. And if not, if it keeps going up, we'll evaluate it. We might buy this again. So, all right, last one, RDI. We already own this at 320. This one had a pretty good day today. It went up 8%. We look at them for the last 5 years. Do we want to get more? Again, these are movie theater stocks. So relatively consistent, went down a little bit. It was, let's say, $11. It's sitting at 359. That's actually a pretty good upside. Very consistent. Look at this. I mean, they're just nailing their earnings estimates exactly. And there's not necessarily a rating on that. So I was thinking I might go ahead and buy this. But the thing is, I already own some of this stock. So I don't necessarily want to increase this on here, considering we just bought, so we're going to buy some AMC. But we will revisit this down the line and see if there's something that we might want to look at. So let's go ahead and put RDI in here. All right. And then the last one we're going to look at is Texas Hospitality. I'm not really sure what happened to this. I wasn't tracking this back then, but they basically do rental accommodations and catering and value-added hospitality service. So they basically do all the stuff for the people that are working in the oil patches, and they work in basically West Texas, so they're not going to be affected by that pipeline. So I like this, super relatively flat, but the last year it had a massive drop-off. So it went down from 1070 to 530, which is basically cut in half. We look over the last year. It's basically, let's call it $5. Had a massive in June, an uptick in June, and then went down. And then right as we were looking at the I keep saying that, the vaccine, we see an uptick from $1 a share, and this one was below $1, so I was a little bit worried about them. But every time there's a vaccine introduced, you see a massive spike. So this is sitting here at 178. They're doing very well at hitting their earnings targets. And we don't necessarily have a rating for them. So I was looking at them, but I already have a bunch of oil stocks. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to add them to our list of ones that we're going to look at. And I don't believe... Oh, I did have a limit order for them, but I decided to cancel it for now. So we're going to put them back in there, and we'll come back and look at that. Now, one of the things we wanted to do to free up some money is I took IVR. So we'll take a look at IVR right now. And this is Invesco Real Estate. It's the only one that's lagging. It's the only one really in the red. I took a look at them earlier today. And I just kind of wanted to find out why they're in the red. I was just kind of surprised. I mean, this stock, everything else is jumping. This one's lagging a little bit. And it has a great name. Invesco's big in the banking and finance sector. Absolutely dead consistent. I mean, look at this. This is just an absolute dead consistent stock. COVID hit, dropped it. We have a spike in June. Then the riots hit and went down. Absolutely dead flat. And then when we look at a month, you can kind of see where the vaccine comes in, and you start to see these spikes. But it's still going from 282 to 340. Not a big jump, believe it or not. So we look at it for the last week even, and it's only gone up 5%. So we see this drop here, and I can't tell you why I know that happened. And I just don't, like, something's different about this stock, and I'm not really sure what it is. So what we want to do, because I don't really have a handle on it, is we want to pair some of our interest in that for right now. So for the 2,200 shares, we're going to sell 650 when it gets back up to 355, which is a little bit over our break-even point. Now that we know what it is, based on a prior video. And if I get better sense on what it is, I might buy that again. But for right now, I just want to get in. I'm not selling it because I don't believe in it. I'm selling it because there's a bunch of other stocks that I want to actually reinvest that money in. So I'll take another $2,300 and put it in some of these stocks that we see right here. So with that being said, we're sitting at about 106,000 of stocks that we own. Current leader in the clubhouse is Signet Jewelers, and they're about to be quadruple. From there, we have DraftKings. Oh, not DraftKings. That's not true. Signet Jewelers. Then we have Caesar Entertainment, coming close to triple. We have Crestwood Equity, our oil stock. Redwood Trust, our REIT. And then we have Azul, the Brazilian airline, getting ready to double. PVAX on its way to double. Every's getting on its way to double. And Braemar Resorts, the one we're going to put a buy, is over 100. Again, this was negative or at like 4% just like a week or two ago. So this is popping in the right direction. So of the stocks we own, we're close to doubling what we own. From the initial investment of $34,000, we have a gain of $56,000, and that's a 166% gain. So we're on our way to tripling our initial investment. So overall, we're shooting for about $332,000, and we have 3 stocks that are already in there that have met our price target for our upside. We have Fang, which is Diamondback Energy, DraftKings, which I'm just going to keep because that thing's just kicking butt, and then Signet's above that one, but we're going to let this one ride as well. So all I can say is this: everybody's pricing in known commodities in the market right now. It's time to buy some stocks. You can see I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and it's time to make some money. So if you don't have a Robinhood account, there's a link in the video description where you can get a free stock. And if you want to use this spreadsheet and customize it for yourself, there's a link to that to download as well. With that being said, again, we are looking at the market today. Let's just refresh this. And it went up a little bit, so it's almost up 200 points. We look at COVID, and we see a lot of new cases. We see a lot of new testing, so that kind of explains the cases right there. The uptick is up a little bit today, but not really high. Hospitalizations are totally flat. So if you notice this, of all the people that are testing, they're testing, but they're not going to the hospital. Okay. If we look at the beds in use, they're definitely not. I mean, we have more beds than we can count. We have a bed, like we have too many beds. We have a glut of beds here in San Diego. The deaths relatively flat for the most part. We had one day where we got 7 people. I mean, that's not an epidemic. I mean, that's just where things are at. We look at the last people that died. Again, it's a slew of older people, except we do have a 32-year-old white Hispanic male with underlying medical conditions. So I'm guessing that's probably diabetes. I mean, that's kind of the most common one, but you could have a heart issue, whatever. But for the most part, it's all the AARP fundraising list: 94, 95, 94, 88, 84, 83, 81, 60, 73. I mean, that's kind of where things are at. So with that being said, 3 vaccines that we know have a really good chance of being approved, even if only one of them is approved. You see the end of things in sight. Corporate America right now has already figured out what they're going to do. So the lack of unknowns is really manifest. So now is the time to get your stocks in, make some money, because I'm telling you, if you don't do this, you're going to remember watching this video and you're going to be pissed. And then you're going to unsubscribe from the channel because you don't want to see the big mistake you made. So please don't do that. Don't unsubscribe, but make the decision. Buy now, because this is an opportunity you literally never will have again. So with that being said, let's see what tomorrow looks like, and I will see you then. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.